This year, it's estimated that 175 million Americans will celebrate Halloween in some way. That's a lot of people. It's not just a holiday for kids. Apparently, 8 out of 10 millennials will have some sort of fun on or around Halloween. Someone mentioned to me earlier today that there's a group that's trying to get a petition to move the date of Halloween so that it's on a Friday, I guess, instead of being during the week. I find that kind of interesting. It's kind of a nice tradition that I think we've had and a community type of event that people do get together with. But you know, with all of those people celebrating, I was shocked to see how much money is spent on this holiday. It actually is the second biggest holiday outside of Christmas. So forget Easter, forget Thanksgiving, Halloween is spent, people spend $9 billion on Halloween. That's incredible to me. That's like a huge amount. So it's a big boost for retailers, which is a wonderful thing, helps our economy, obviously. But apparently, you know, that's a lot of money that's spent. Apparently, it's about $85 on average that people spend per person, I gather. And what even shocked me more is we've gone to a whole new level, because apparently for every $3 that is spent on a child's costume, $1 is spent on a costume for a dog or cat. Now that's pretty incredible. I thought, wow, so we're not only just dressing up the kids, we're dressing up the dog and the cat now too and everything, and that's also kind of a boost. So it's an interesting holiday because I think that we can get very caught up in it without kind of having a good sense of really the origins of it and putting it into perspective, making sure we have a good and healthy perspective on the holiday. You know, for instance, this morning we had our little children from the preschool program on Sunday mornings. They came and they dressed up as saints, and that was one of the ways that really Halloween took off back around in like the 9th century. It was to combat the pagan tradition of it. So I think it's good for us to remember that it doesn't have to be about goblins and scary figures and masks and all these different things. To be honest with you, I have never liked Halloween. When I was a child, it kind of always sort of bothered me a little bit, and I think there's others that feel that way too. I never wanted to wear a scary costume. I always was like a farmer or something, or a doctor, or something nice. I think one year I may have even gone as a priest. Well, guess what? All dreams come true. But I will say that the best thing about it was the candy. I did love getting all the candy, and that was always a wonderful thing about it. Apparently, a quarter of the candy bought throughout the year is bought at this time of year. So if you have extras, you know, please, especially dark chocolate M&Ms, please feel free to bring them by the parish office. But we give the candy out as well. But I think one of my reasons why I don't really care for it is I was never really into theme kind of things. Even when I was in college and I was in a fraternity, and you know, they like to do all these like theme kind of parties and stuff. I never liked dressing up because I think I like to see things in reality and what it is. And again, putting it into perspective and seeing it for what it really is. That whole idea of sight is really the theme of our gospel today. And it has to do with Bartimaeus, who is this poor beggar who is physically blind. So it gives us a sense of blindness, but Bartimaeus kind of is an entree into a whole different area of blindness. And that has to do with physical blindness, spiritual blindness, and moral blindness. So first of all, for the physical, you know, Bartimaeus couldn't see, and he was rejected by people. So he was cast aside. You know, we think today we live in a disposable society. We throw out an awful lot. A lot of things get thrown out, including some people like to take people and put them off to the side. Because if I take people and I put them out of my sight, I don't have to deal with them. And I can kind of ghost them. Oh, that's a nice little Halloween theme. You can ghost them and say, you go off on your own, I'm going to have nothing to do with you. Well, guess what? That's not really a healthy perspective. But that's what they did with Bartimaeus. They put him off to the side. He was on the side of the road and he was begging. So he didn't have his basic needs cared for, and he was yelling out. And what did they try to do? They tried to tell him to stop talking. to be quiet. They tried to silence him. So that's totally not respecting dignity. And ironically, in the reading from Jeremiah tonight, we heard about this prophecy that the promised land would be reopened for who? The blind, the lame, the women, and the children, those who were considered lowly of society. So God has a special place for those who have disabilities. God has a special place for those who have challenges. God has a special place for those who are cast aside. In the area of the physical blindness, we spend a lot of our efforts as well medically. I think probably one of the biggest fears that people have is losing their sight. And through incredible technology today, we're able to preserve sight. We're able to do some fantastic things. I don't know about all of it. Dr. Lieb, I'm sure you know plenty about that and what possibly is the next greatest thing about restoring sight to people. And that's something that none of us wants to lose our sight. It's a scary place to be. I know even recently, I have never worn glasses except for maybe some reading, and I just notice now I need them like all the time. And I said to the doctor when I went recently, I said, I'm kind of concerned because I feel like I need the glasses more and more when I'm reading on my Kindle or reading the paper. I said, I hope nothing's wrong. And he said, Father, nothing's wrong. You're getting old. Oh, well, I guess that happens. But, it's a concern because, we have to want to make sure we preserve and take care of our sight, the physical sight. There is spiritual blindness. And this is something that Bartimaeus did not have. He had faith. And even Jesus said to him, your faith has saved you. But some are not able to have that gift of faith for whatever reason. They make choices, and spiritual blindness is taking God and putting him off to the side and saying, I don't have God in my life. And unfortunately, there's many people today who have done that. They've said, I don't need God. And so as a result, faith becomes something that's put up on the shelf. It is put away. But when we have God in our life, and studies have shown people that have faith, people that have religion, that have a relationship with God, they tend to be happier. They tend to live longer. They see the world in a whole different way. So your presence here tonight is your desire. It's an outward witness, a sign of your desire to want to know God. For when we know God, we love God. We have a desire for him. And so we have him in our life, and it helps us to see the world in a different way and to see other people in a different way. You see, when we have God in our life, we're called upon to see people as he sees them. Maybe not in our own limited vision, just what we want them to be and judging them, but rather to have it opened up and to say, God, help me to understand this person in my life, this family member, this coworker. Help me to have your presence in my life because it helps with our spiritual blindness, that we're able to see people as God sees them. And if that's the case, then inevitably we are able to love as God loves. And the third kind of blindness that it's not really addressed in the gospel reading today, but it goes along with having faith in our life, is that of moral blindness. And that's the ability to see the difference between right and wrong. And sometimes we're not really willing to call a spade and say, this is wrong. I think we have to be able to do that. That when we have done something in our life that we have to be held accountable for, we have to go to God, utilize the sacrament of reconciliation, know what is correct and what is not correct. We have to be able to say to ourselves, Lord, I want to have a conscience. For when our conscience is clouded, we don't make good decisions. And a conscience is a gift that God gave to the person, to the human person. God gave us that gift to be able to determine right and wrong. A plant does not have that gift. Animals, supposedly, they don't have that gift. The human person does. The human person has a conscience, and I've often reflected on how probably the best gift that we can give to our children is helping them. to know the difference between right and wrong, because you're giving a gift not just to them, but also to you as a parent or grandparent. Because if you've taught your children to determine right and wrong, well then you don't have to worry about them later on in life. You know, you've given them tools. You've helped them to be able to realize what is good for them, what is bad. Not just for them, because that would be selfish, but for everyone. So how is it that we look and we say, wow, I need to be able to have a conscience in my life, because my conscience tells me that. And then when we have those feelings of guilt or shame, they're not really great feelings to have. But a balance of them, that's our conscience talking to us. That's our conscience after we've done something, and maybe we know we've not done something right, or we've wronged somebody else. It's kind of that opportunity to say, you know, Lord, thank you for bringing that to my attention. I can only think that there's certain situations today where I think that some people have no conscience, like what happened yesterday up in Pittsburgh. How does somebody do that? I don't know. How does somebody take another life from someone? That is inconceivable. How can someone be a pathological liar? There are people that we know, they don't even know what the truth is anymore, because they've just talked about this whole world and everything, that it's not correct anymore. We don't even know what world that they would live in. But some people, they live their whole life like that. Some people get joy out of slandering other people and gossiping about them and hurting their good name. You know what? Where's the conscience in that? Where's the filter? So tonight's a good opportunity for us to say, wow, where do I suffer some blindness? And again, maybe it's different levels. Maybe it's not as severe as being a pathological liar, but maybe we tell all those little white lies, we get away with it, and you say, oh, this works for me. Well, guess what? We need to put on a better filter. Perhaps in our relationship with God, we go through some dark days. We doubt God's presence. Maybe there's Sundays where you say, nah, it's kind of a nice day out today. I don't think I want to go to church tonight. I think I'm going to go out for a walk. Guess what? This is good for your soul. Receiving the real presence of Christ is the beauty of the Eucharist, giving us spiritual food. So that's a little bit of that evil one kind of coming in. Oh no, you don't need to go to Mass tonight. Go outside, stay, but you're here. So again, thank you for saying yes to that. Tonight we concentrate on that blindness, and we ask God for the ability to see things as He sees them. For when we do that, maybe one day we ourselves will be counted among the saints in heaven. And this week, as we celebrate All Saints, we celebrate All Souls, it is that opportunity to be reminded that one day we hope will be counted among that number.